Welcome to the CMMC Compliance Guide Podcast. I'm Stacy.
And I'm Brooke.
From Justice IT Consulting, where we help businesses like yours navigate CMMC and NIST 800-171 compliance. We're hired guns getting companies fast-tracked to compliance, but today we're here to give you all the secrets for free. So if you want to tackle it yourself, you're equipped to do so. Let's dive into today's episode and keep your business on track. Today, we're diving into the latest updates from the CyberAB's January Town Hall and what they mean for DoD contractors like you. There's been a lot of movement in the CMMC space, and we're here to break it all down. Why should DoD contractors care about what was discussed in the CyberAB Town Hall?
Well, these town halls that CyberAB does, they're great information for the whole CMMC world. They give you great information, great updates, things you wouldn't know otherwise. We also try to provide a little newsletter or a little updates like this, but you just don't hear that very well unless you know to attend these or download the recordings or something. That's just really good information for the CMMC world.
What were some of the biggest takeaways from this town hall?
Yeah, so some of the updates from this town hall, a lot of them were stuff we already know or were in process last time. The 32 CFR, it's final. We knew that. The 48 CFR, same status as last time, and it's still proposed, hasn't come out as final yet. There's a little bit more news about that I think we'll get to here in a minute, but nothing specific. The new CAP 2.0 is out, the new Code of Professional Conduct, which is a really big deal to everybody in the CMMC ecosystem. It's a big deal to CCPs like myself, big deal to RPs, CCAs, lead CCAs, C3POs. It's a big deal. They make that clear that Code of Professional Conduct is real, and you need to hold to that, which it's all pretty common sense, but it's a real thing. Just to look at my notes because I know I'm leaving some stuff off. Oh, and the one of the things that is not really specifically CMMC that they talked about is a new FAR CUI rule that came out. So the FAR CUI rule is the beginning of CMMC for the rest of the federal government. So that's a huge deal. They've been saying it's going to come out, but now it's come out, and it's the beginning of it. So that's a really big deal. There's some other inside baseball stuff. One of the inside baseball things, quote inside baseball, that they talked about were the Tier 3 background checks, and just letting us know that once they get over to the federal government to do the Tier 3 background check, it's kind of a black hole. We just are not going to find out. And full disclosure here, whenever I got my CCP, the only reason you had to get a Tier 3 background check is if you wanted to take part on an assessment. Well, we don't do assessments. I don't care to be an assessor. I don't want to be in that part of it, and so I didn't bother with it. Well, then they changed and said, oh, by the way, if you want to keep your CCP or CCA, you have to get a Tier 3 background check. So filled all my, I think it's a SF 86 form and out and turned everything in, got all that done. Was contacted, all that kind of fun stuff. And so now I'm just waiting on mine. So now, since the 32 CFR went final, those of us who were certified before, like a CCP or CCA, but had to go back and do their background check, since that 32 CFR went final on the 16th, we're in a pending status. So as soon as that gets done, we'll be able to move. I'll have that designation again. But so anyway, but nevertheless, those are a lot of the things that were that they talked about.
Are there any new deadlines or changes in compliance expectations that contractors need to be aware of?
There's not really any new deadlines or anything. The assessments are available right now. They became available on the 16th, December 16th. So assessments are available right now. The CAP is done. The Code of Professional Conduct is done. see-through PAOs are starting to be reauthorized. I don't know if all of them are reauthorized yet, but all of them had to get reauthorized. There's a good number of them that are already reauthorized, and new ones that are coming on board. But that's available sometime in 2026. As we talked about the timeline before, sometime in 2026 is when certifications will start being required, at least by the federal government. That doesn't mean their prime won't require it sooner. But those are the kind of updates on the timelines.
When will CMMC Level 2 certifications be required on contracts?
That is a timely question, since I just mentioned that. I jump ahead on some of these things on accident sometimes. So, so we don't, at this point, we don't know. I mean, that's the actual answer. But what it looks like, so the 48 CFR that's proposed, when it goes final, that's what will require it on the new contracts. And so that is still in the proposed stage. President Trump, when he came into office, one of his executive orders was to basically say any rules that have been submitted but not published, or that haven't quite made it to being submitted yet, final rules. Anyway, they need to pull those back, and they need to take a look at them before they submit them. That's not really anything new. All administrations do that, at least from what I understand, all administrations do that. So it just means that there's going to be a little bit more time added on. The CyberAB guesstimated another 60 days maybe, but we'll see. So that 48 CFR rule, it'll likely be a little more than 60 days from today, for instance. Who knows when it'll actually be, but that added just a little bit of time on it. But still, if it goes into effect, say, this is February, so March and April, if it went into effect in the middle of May, that would mean roughly the middle of May in 2026 is when certifications would be start being required on contracts, at least by the federal government. And again, we've talked about if middle of May 2026 is the date, then that's when they'll be required on all new contracts, or on new contracts, not all new. They also gave themselves a little bit of wiggle room to implement a little later or a little earlier, depending. Plus, the big question mark is what are primes going to do? They're going to want all their subcontractors to get in a good position before, so they can say we're ready, because you're part of them being ready if you're a sub. So the big question is, when are primes going to start requiring them, or really pushing, or all that kind of fun stuff.
So with that being said, what are the next steps for companies that want to stay ahead of the curve?
So the next steps, if you want to stay ahead of the curve, really, is make sure all your controls are taken care of, make sure they're all up to date, engage somebody to help you verify that you have all your documentation. If you have all your documentation, you think I'm ready to go, then hire a see-through PAO. They're at least 3 to 4 months out or so right now. Most everybody that I know is. And so even if you say I'm ready to go right now, it's going to be 3 or 4 months before you can even get started. And then it's going to be another couple of months likely to go through and get that assessment. And so you're talking maybe 6 months down the road before you can even get a certification. So don't wait. Do it now. It's not easy to get prepared. It's not easy to get all that documentation, and certainly not quick or easy to go through the certification process. So get it done now and be ready, and pull that trigger on the C3 PAO as soon as you know that you're going to be ready, so you can get that in the works.
You had quickly brushed over earlier about the FAR CUI rule. Could you go into it a little bit deeper and let us know what that entails?
Sure. So, and I think I probably kind of touched on it. Like I said, I kind of jump ahead on some of these questions sometimes. I don't mean to. But the 48 CFR, the FAR CUI rule Gosh, let me back up. So the FAR CUI rule that was just published is for the DFARS is Defense Federal Federal Acquisition Request. It's for federal acquisition for the defense companies was what DFARS is. FAR is Federal Acquisition. So this is basically the beginning of CMMC for the rest of the federal government. So this means all over the federal government is going to have to get on board and understand CUI, get that standardized, and start working with CUI and protecting CUI, and then I'm sure the rest of the some sort of the CMMC process will come out to the rest of the federal government. That is the beginning of it.
Were there any common concerns or questions raised by attendees that we should address?
Yeah. So the I think probably the most common question, because it was a bunch of us, but there's people from the DIB, people from the CMMC ecosystem on the call, for the people in the CMMC ecosystem like RPs, CCAs, CCPs, there was a lot of questions about the Tier 3 background check, and really, like I said a minute ago, it's once you submit your form, really after that, it's a black hole. You get contacted at some point, and you get contacted by the Washington Headquarters Service, I think is what it is. I think I wrote that down. Washington Headquarters Services. You get contacted by them. You get one attempt. If you're lucky, you get 2 attempts to contact you, and then they kick you out, and you have to start again. And so the process to get to there is not short. And so if you get kicked out, it's a pain in the rear. You have to go back through it again. But once you get contacted, they'll probably want you to go in for a fingerprint check, and I can't remember what else. But anyway, they'll want to set those things up, and then after that, it's a black hole again. It's in the federal government. There's no website you can go to and see the status of my Tier 3 background check. There's nothing like that. We're not the only ones they're doing Tier 3 background checks for. They're doing them for the whole federal government. So I'm sure, I don't know what kind of piece of the pie, but I'm sure we're a small piece of the pie, in the CMMC ecosystem. So that was the biggest thing, how long is it going to take? How long? In fact, it takes probably 4 to 10 months on average to go through that Tier 3 background check.
Wow.
And that's if everything goes well. So, I resubmitted mine, or submitted mine, I think October. So it's possible that I may have to wait till August for it to come back. So that's not good. So what that does also is it very well could narrow the field of available CCPs and CCAs to participate on these assessments, which is not good because we're struggling to have enough anyway. And there's, they're constantly trying to push people to get CCAs especially, and we need lead CCAs. That's a very strict requirement for a lead CCA. Tier 3 background check is the same for everybody, but so it's taken a long time, and that was that was what the most questions were about.
Are there any other challenges that contractors might face with these updates, and how can they navigate them?
The biggest challenge really is not knowing when exactly you need to be certified. One of the biggest challenges for us last year was, what's going to happen with security protection data, SPD, what's going to be the final requirement. We know what the proposed rule said. What's the final rule say? Now we know. But and so now we got to make sure that we meet that final rule. But we had a whole year to look at it and figure out what we're going to do for those places where we needed to address it. So this is kind of the same thing. When are you going to need to be certified? Well, not really sure. But when it happens, it's probably going to happen quick. And it's only going to be on new contracts. But, if you're bidding on new contracts or you get POs right now, or however you get your business, maybe some of our clients get POs and they don't necessarily sign a contract to get new business. It's part of that PO, and maybe there is some sort of contract somewhere. Maybe that's going to change. I'm not the one that actually gets that business, so I don't exactly 100% know, but this is what our clients are telling us. But that's going to change, and that'll probably change fairly quickly. And so, like I said, these C3PAOs are backlogged, and that's not going to get any better probably for the next 4 years, I would imagine. If you don't know when you're going to need to be certified, so you just can't wait. If you do wait, you're likely to be behind the eight ball and trying to figure something out because you can't get new contracts yet. The other thing is with all this is that as far as the DoD is concerned, you've known since 2017, at the end of 2017, that you've needed to be compliant with NIST 800-171 R2 now. So as far as the DoD is concerned, the cost with that, and the cost associated with being compliant, and all that fun stuff, and the act of being compliant, getting compliant, that's water under the bridge. That should already be done. They're not concerned with that, and so you should, if there's anything that needs to be POAM'd, get it taken care of. That is POAM'd, that's not taken care of yet. Then you need to get that taken care of.
Well, that wraps up our recap of the January CyberAB Town Hall. If you have any questions about what we covered, reach out to us. We're here to help fast track your compliance journey, so please, please, please text, email, or call in your questions. We will answer them for free here on the podcast, and you can find our contact information at CMMCComplianceGuide.com.